The second episode of Drama Light Shop begins with a girl named Sian Hei, who is visiting a house to rent for herself. The landlord is showing her around, praising the house and explaining how suitable it would be for her. Sian Hei, however, keeps asking him about the house and its surroundings, but the landlord is more focused on convincing her to take it and sign the contract quickly. Despite his persuasion, Sian Hei thoroughly inspects the house. The landlord assures her that if she doesn't like this house, he can show her other apartments. However, Sian Hei ultimately decides to take the house because she wants a peaceful place to live. When Sian Hei asks the landlord if the place is truly quiet, he tells her that no one else lives there, making it a very calm spot. As Sian Hei tries to open one of the doors in the house, it doesn't budge. The landlord explains that construction work is ongoing in that room and advises her not to open it. This is also why he's offering the house at a slightly cheaper rate. Sian Hei eventually agrees and moves into the house, shifting all her belongings. She cleans the house thoroughly and arranges her things as per her preference. She even hangs a mirror on the wall. While doing this, she notices the door that seemed strange earlier and finds it odd. She decides to cover the door with a cloth. Meanwhile, we see a boy named Jiyoung walking down the street while singing a song. He looks nervous, as if he's scared to pass through the alley. Suddenly, he hears a noise from behind and, startled, starts walking faster while continuing to sing. Eventually, he breaks into a run. Back in house, Sian Hei is busy with her chores when she hears Jiyoung's voice singing as he passes by. She thinks to herself that the place isn't as quiet as the landlord claimed. Jiyoung eventually reaches the light shop but leaves without going inside. Later, Sian Hei falls asleep while working in her house. Suddenly, the lights go off. A shadow appears who is watching her and then bulb shatters. In the next scene, Jiyoung who looks more frightened than ever. He's scared to walk through the street, especially since it's raining that day. Sian Hei, meanwhile, is busy working in her house when the electricity goes out again. She tries to turn it back on but fails, thinking it might be because the house is old. Once again, a shadow appears in her house, hinting at something ominous. The next scene shows a doctor examining a patient and commenting that there has been no improvement in the patient's condition. He suggests that they might have to remove the patient's life support soon. Meanwhile, another patient, who appears to be delirious, is groaning and mumbling as if talking to someone, asking, "Who are you? Get out of here." The head nurse observes this and remarks that this man is an alcoholic and tends to disturb other patients. The doctor agrees that this might be causing inconvenience for others and assures the nurses that arrangements will be made to address the issue. The head nurse then informs the doctor that the patient's guardians are outside. The doctor and other staff members go to meet them. The doctor tells the family that they are doing everything in their power, but the rest depends on the patient's willpower. Hearing this, a family member breaks down, questioning the purpose of the hospital and collapses in tears, watched by everyone around. Shio Hei, who is in her room, starts to feel as if someone is watching her but ignores it and continues with her work. Meanwhile, Jiyoung is shown walking down a street singing a song nervously when he suddenly sees something ahead of him. It turns out to be Hyunju, who mistakes Jiyoung for a ghost, and she runs away in fear in the past. Back at home, Sian Hei hears Jiyoung singing and gets irritated. Then, the power in her house goes out, and she notices light emanating from a room where she had hung clothes. Out of curiosity, she approaches the room to open the door. In the next scene, we see young Ji, who is feeling bad after overhearing the family members' conversations. She goes to the washroom and sits there when she hears footsteps and a knock on the door. A woman on the other side introduces herself as a patient's guardian and asks young Ji how the patient's willpower is determined when they are unconscious. Young Ji shares her own experience of having been in a similar situation after an accident, where she didn't know how she found the willpower to recover. She mentions that her mother prayed for her, which she believes helped her. She tells the woman that they can only do their best and leave the rest to fate. Suddenly, the woman starts banging on the door angrily, demanding that they must save her loved one no matter what. The banging becomes louder, and the woman, who turns out to be Haiwan, screams in desperation. Young Ji is terrified and then looks around, only to find no one there. She quickly leaves the washroom and walks away. The scene shifts back to Si-Hye, who enters a room where a single light bulb is glowing. She turns it off and steps out. Outside, she hears Ji-young singing again. Frustrated, she opens the window and scolds him. Startled, Ji-young runs away. Si-Hye shuts the door and goes back to her room, where the light bulb starts glowing again on its own. The story then moves to a school where classes are ending. The students are preparing to leave, but one of their friends is sleeping. The others discuss whether they should wake her up but decide to leave without disturbing her. However, Hyunju tries to wake her up but fails and eventually leaves, saying goodbye. As she walks home in the rain, she lights a small torch to see her way. On the way, she encounters Haiwan, whom Hyunju offers to help her, and Haiwan asks her some questions, such as where she lives and where she is going. They walk together. But Hyunju notices that Haiwan's hair is unusually long and appears to be growing rapidly on her. Realizing something is off, Hyunju remembers Wonyoung's words and pretends not to notice anything strange. She excuses herself, saying she needs to leave quickly, and walks away. However, Haiwan starts following her. Panicked, Hyunju runs to a nearby light shop. Hearing her screams, Wonyoung comes out, helps her, and advises her to go home to her mother. Hyunju leaves, and Haiwan disappears after Wonyoung takes off his glasses and looks at her. At this point, the girl whose friends left her alone in class wakes up and thinks about how they didn't wait for her. She notices another girl sitting beside her and asks her if they both saw the same thing. In the next scene, Si-Hye is shown sleeping when some blood starts dripping near her, waking her up. Meanwhile, Ji-young is about to bump into a Ji-young, but they narrowly saved. The Ji-young apologizes and says that not many people come to this alley. Ji-young asks where he's going, and he replies that he's heading to a bright light shop. He mentions that if he gets there, he can find his way home. He asks Ji-young if she'll accompany him, and they walk together. She asks if he's alone, and he replies, yes. At home, Si-Hye tries to turn on her house lights, but they won't work. She decides to take a shower. While washing her hair, we see some extra strands and while drying her hair she finds upon the drain filled with hair. Terrified, she rushes out. The lights in her room start flickering on and off. She goes into the same room, and as soon as she enters, the lights get switched on. Outside, Ji-young talks to the Ji-young about the alley. He explains that it's always dark here, but the lights in that room stay on. Once, out of curiosity, he tried to peek inside to see if anyone lived there. He recalls seeing a girl coming out, but she wasn't alone, someone else was with her. Scared, he ran away that day. Meanwhile, Si-Hye hears the sound of a door creaking open behind her and notices a shadow. Realizing that the shadow has been following her, she concludes that the lights in the house have been malfunctioning because the shadow can only exist in darkness and has been staying with her all along. Outside, Ji-young wonders if both the shadow and the girl he saw were together. Ji-young attempts to enter the house, but the Ji-young tries to stop her. However, Ji-young notices the Ji-young's fingers are bent unnaturally and gets scared. Then Ji-young tells Ji-young that they look similar to each other. Ji-young then realizes that his feet are twisted backward and starts running, but he can't escape. Ji-young tells him that he'll never be able to leave this place. Inside, Si-Hye also tries to leave the house. She breaks a glass window and screams for help. Outside, Ji-young keeps finding himself returning to the same spot, unable to escape. Both Ji-young and Si-Hye cry out desperately for help. In the next scene, Ji-young arrives at the light shop, where Wonyoung asks her why she's there. Ji-young looks at a light in the shop and then at her suitcase. Wonyoung asks if she's searching for something, and Ji-young tells him that he'll find out soon. At that moment, a detective enters the shop and tells Wonyoung that he has some questions for him. The episode ends here. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel for further episodes.